resellers! Welcome to episode number 129 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is September 6th, 2023, and my guest is Sally in South Dakota. A couple of announcements from listener mail. In last week's podcast, we discussed CPAP machines briefly. I want to thank all of the listeners who contacted me about what to do with used CPAP machines since you can't sell the actual machine on eBay. There are companies that will buy them. If you do a Google search for sell used CPAP machine, you will find lots of information. So I stand corrected on that. But just remember, you still cannot sell the actual machine on eBay. Next up is an email from Anna. She said, "Hi, Suzanne. I've been working up the courage for a while to email you. I love your podcast. I love when Wednesday morning rolls around and I can fire it up on my way to work. My commute is 18 minutes, so it takes a few days to complete one. I wanted to let you know I absolutely loved the latest episode from your estate sale gurus. I myself am a lover of estate sales and frequent them often. I learned a lot. I also wanted to reach out regarding the Y2K chat with Allie, your friend from Illinois. I was born in 1987 and love reselling and have recently begun to capitalize on the Y2K aesthetic. I graduated high school in 2005, so I'm all too familiar with this. I would encourage you to tell your listeners to check out the following TV shows and movies: The OC, Laguna Beach, She's All That, Down to You, and 10 Things I Hate About You. These are prime examples of the Y2K aesthetic. I just sold an Abercrombie hoodie today for $34.95 plus shipping. It has been sitting in my childhood closet since I last wore it in 2003. I'm wearing it in my expired passport photo from 2002 with a puka shell necklace. Again, a Y2K aesthetic. Thank you so much for your informative podcast. I so enjoy listening to you and all of your guests and have learned so much. My husband and I even watched Ancient Aliens last night on your recommendation. Okay, fascinating, but still a little out there." So thank you so much, Anna, for that additional information. And to Anna and anybody else, don't ever hesitate to email me or contact me. I love hearing from you. I love hearing what I can do better and this additional information. And you know what? You might even get invited to come on the podcast and talk more. So thank you so much for that listener mail. Okay, now let's get to know Sally. Welcome back, listeners. We have Sally with us today. And where are you located, Sally?
I am in northeastern South Dakota in a little
Oh,
town called
okay.
Watertown.
I think I only had two other guests from South Dakota. I know Summer lives near Mount Rushmore.
Oh, she's on the western side then.
Okay, and then I think there was somebody else, but with over 100 guests, it kind of all gets blurry.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting because are you in a real populated area?
South Dakota is not a populated area.
Right.
No, not really. I think I told you, I'm from Northern California originally, born and
Okay.
raised, and we moved out here, oh gosh, it's just over 2 years ago for a lot of reasons, and still adjusting to what, as far as reselling goes, still adjusting to what's here.
Mhm.
And, California is literally a gold mine of things to buy and sell, especially I like to do outdoor gear, and books are my favorites. I'll sell anything.
Mhm.
Um, legal.
Of course.
Any legal things I'll sell. And so there's not the kind of things that I used to find and sell over there are just not here. It's a different climate, it's a different culture. So I'm having to do a lot of rethinking and adjusting and um, finding the places. And
Okay.
yeah, so
Well, we can get into that more because that is really a trend is people moving to reduce their cost of living. And I keep hearing that people in California are leaving and they're buying houses sight unseen, just like on the
that's
internet.
me.
Oh, you did that? Like you just
Did that.
look for what
Never
you
been to
need and
Watertown in my entire life. And it was a long journey. For about 25 years, we had it in our minds that we would leave California for, all the reasons. As beautiful as it is, they've completely destroyed it, and it's really hard to live there now. And so we hung around for our parents. Um, you know, I've heard your story enough to know that in my family, I'm the responsible one who does all the things. And in my husband's family, he's the responsible one who does all the things. So we both had to stick around uh, to make sure we could help our folks. And my mom was on her own in northern California on the coast. And so they've all passed. And so that was part of the nudge to, like, well, we can probably start thinking about that, getting out of California. And then my husband was eligible for retirement. He had been in his work for a long time, early retirement. He'd
Mhm.
been in 28, almost 29 years. So he was ready. And then the clincher was we lost our oldest son,
Oh,
and he wasn't going to move. He was going to stay because he was a martial artist and he was on a team, competitive, and he had worked his way up. And
okay.
it was the best training of his art. The best training and coaching was there. So he wasn't going to leave. So we weren't going to leave. And then not because of his art, but it happened at the gym. He had a traumatic brain injury that ended up
No.
being fatal. So, yeah, 7 days in a coma. And then he went home to be with the Lord. And that was it. We said, "Where do you want to go?"
I'm
And
so
we had
sorry.
been to the Black Hills. Yeah, we miss him every day, but I don't want to make the podcast about
Well,
him.
how long ago was that that you lost?
He died in October 2020, and my mom died in March 2020.
Oh, what
So
a year.
we did a lot of uh that, estate sales and selling real estate and moving their homes and moving. We emptied out 3 homes in a
Mhm.
couple of years.
Well, you kind of did a reset, and I think you have to do that after these deaths because it's just you go through that grieving process, which is horribly painful on so many levels. I went through it in 2020, and then you get to the point where you're like, I can't bring them back. They wouldn't want me sitting here dwelling on it, not living. I'm here, so I'm going to live for both of us or all
Mhm.
three of us in your case. And you get to the point where you can do a reset and
Right,
going. So sounds
right.
like
We had our younger son Sam moved out with us, and he and his brother were roommates. And Sam was in a little bit of a quandary. He was going to move just because it's just so incredibly difficult for a young man. He's 24 to survive in California and just
mhm,
everything. And it's so expensive. Um, the list goes on. So he came out here with us, and he's just doing exceptionally well, just thriving. So we're very happy about that. It was a big part of getting out of California, was giving him a good chance where he can do the things he likes to do. He's in school studying finance and accounting, and he's just killing it. He's got jobs and internships, and he's doing really well. So that's a big reason why we're here.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is really a drastic change. What part of California were you in?
We were in northern, not far from Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is
Oh,
an hour's drive. So
beautiful.
yeah, but a lot of wildfires.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, a lot
So,
of power outages.
yeah, and I didn't know any of this before we started talking. So, um, you're just one of those people that left California for a state with a much lower cost of living for one
Yeah,
thing,
in
as well
order
as
for my
other things.
husband to retire.
And what did he do? What kind of work?
He worked in wastewater treatment,
Okay. So
so
kind of an
for
environmentalist.
municipalities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's get back to the eBay part. I mean, we can't help but talk about our lives because, we're not 100% eBay with nothing else.
Mm.
These things come up. But when did you start selling on eBay, and what brought you to eBay?
You know, I'm not sure of the date, but it was in the very near the beginning of eBay, because at the time we were living in the Bay Area, and I was came out of corporate marketing communications in Silicon Valley tech, and I wanted to stay home with our son. And so I started doing, fill the gaps, selling things. And I can't remember if I started on Amazon. It was books mostly. I can't remember if I started on Amazon or eBay, but I was doing both of them. And I did a little bit of consignment sales on eBay, which I'm glad I did it. Um, And then it was very sporadic, on again, off again. I didn't have a specialty except books. I was always selling books, and we homeschooled our boys. So I would sell curriculum to buy new curriculum and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I did that for years. Um, and somehow or another, I lost my account, mostly because I couldn't get back into it, and I wasn't able to get eBay to help me get back into it. So I don't have that history, doesn't show
Oh, I
on my
see. Your
profile.
account looks newer than your
Yeah,
experience.
it looks a lot newer, and the sales look a lot less, but that's okay, I guess.
Well, yeah, people go through that. Things come up in your life, and eBay gets lower on the priority list.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't anything I ever did. It was very much this on the side, little side hustle. I didn't really take it seriously and decide to commit to it until actually about, I think it was this last winter. Because I have the time, I have the space, and I definitely need other things, to give something to do.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, it's definitely something you can come and go from. And I noticed you popping up on the Facebook group with the posting your sales and all of that. And I was like, who's Sally? What's her story? So um yeah, you can definitely come and go from it. And I had an incident in 2013. So I had been selling for 10 years. And this was before they revamped all the feedback rules. Like you have to wait a certain amount of days before you can do a negative, and eBay will intervene and remove it. It wasn't like that. So I
mm,
don't even know what happened, but I got two negatives in a week, and that was just
oh,
really outside of my norm. And so my account went to below standard, and
mm,
I was just horrified. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I couldn't list anything, or it was very limited what I could list, because they wanted to see that you're going to do everything right. And, I listed up to the limit of what they would allow. And it was terrifying. I'm like, what if I can't sell anymore? And here I am. I had a blog and a YouTube channel, and I'm trying to teach people how to do this. And that happened, which I did turn that into a learning experience. I can help other people when it happens to them. But, and then once I got my account back, I opened a second account, so that I would have a backup if anything ever happened, which I don't even use that anymore, but it's there, and it's 10 years old now. So, it happens, things happen, but so glad that eBay evolved to where things like that can't kill your account anymore. You have to really be a terrible seller these days, with, shipping on time repeatedly, and, negatives, and with all I don't even think the DSR system was in place, where the star rating. I don't think that was in place, because that's just another layer of how you can excel or fail, if you keep getting.
Yeah, I remember I remember thinking, I can't compete with this anymore, when eBay changed so much and it was no longer just like garage sales online. And it really changed where the commercial retail stores opened their online channels, and the free shipping and all I'm like, that was why I was like, oh, I can't play this game anymore, because I was still just selling my homeschool books and used shoes or whatever. And I couldn't offer free shipping, and
Right. Well,
so all
and
that sort of stuff.
For the listeners, when that happened, resellers like us were just not happy with that, because these big companies, they don't care if their profit's $1. If they're selling 1,000 things a day, and that's I get this question a lot, is, how can these companies, or how can these sellers sell things for so cheap and do free shipping? They're not making any money. Well, their cost of goods is lower than ours, and they make their money on volume. And that really pushed me into the vintage and used item world 100%. I was like, we can't compete. You can't sell iPhone cases and all these, earbuds and all the things that were popular, the new goods. We can't compete with that. So you have to figure out a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, I like vintage and unusual things, and they don't always sell quickly. And I'm no expert by any stretch, but like a lot of your people in your group, the adventure of figuring out what it is and who wants it, that's a lot of fun. I think that's one of the things that I like so much about it, is the variety, the learning, and the talking to the people, the constant testing of what's working and what's not working. And there's no one thing that I sell over and over again. There are some things I would like to be able to sell over and over again, for sure, but they're not that easy to find, not around here. So,
well, let's talk about some of your sales, whether you were living in California when they happened or now.
I'll tell you, my all-time favorite was is a little bit unconventional, but a friend of ours had been collecting the Transformer toys when they first came out, and I think it was about 85. He just had a hunch that they were going to be valuable, and he was buying them up, and some he gave to his kids, and some he kept mint in new in box. And gosh, he ended up with a collection of, I don't remember how many, it was 50 or more. And he was moving out of California to Wisconsin, and he knew that I sold things online. And so he showed up one day with his collection of Transformer toys and a collection of buck knives, asked me if I would sell them And you'll understand this. I wasn't going to because he was only offering me 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of work that goes into it, he didn't understand. And he's a good friend, one of my husband's best friends. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. Long story short, so the unconventional part is that I actually got online and started seeking out collectors of the Transformer toys. And I found a guy in Florida, and I told him what I had, and he was very interested. And that just became a long process of online shipping him photos and descriptions of all the packaging and all the details and all that sort of stuff. Took weeks and a lot of time. It's all I did for weeks. Long story short, he bought the whole lot for $10,150.
You are kidding. I was thinking she's
And
going to say
I got
$1,000.
10%. So, and then the
Oh,
buck
so
knives.
you got 10%. So you got
I got
$1,000.
10%. Yeah. And I told our friend, I said, this is your one. Because it's, it takes so much time. I easily had 100 hours into that work. Um, anyway, so it wasn't, I used eBay to find him, but I didn't sell through eBay. It was
Mhm.
a direct to the buyer, but that was my all-time favorite sale. And then the buck knives um, I did put on eBay, and that trickled out over a couple of years to the point where just the little ones were just not, they're just sitting there not doing anything. And so I just boxed them all up and sent them back to the owner. It's hard to
Yeah.
be responsible for somebody else's things.
Well, and I think a lot of sellers go through the consignment phase because you don't have to put any money into it. It's time. So I did a lot of that too. I did it for individuals. I did it for the Humane Society thrift store. Um,
Hmm.
and because I was shopping in there, this was like 2013-ish. I was shopping in there and I had been the board administrator for the Humane Society for a few years. And then um, that was one of the jobs I got let go from because they were paying me and they're like, we're just gonna have a volunteer do whatever you do. And yeah, that
Uh,
never happened. So the board changed. Anyway, so I knew all the people in the store and I was like, have you guys thought about selling this on eBay? And they're like, yeah, but we just don't know how, and it's complicated. Anyway, it evolved into me doing it, and I learned a lot. I learned about a lot of products and the research, and so it was kind of like free education. It just cost me my time, and I did get 50% of things
oh,
but I
oh, good for
did
you.
as a, just me. I raised $10,000 in 1 year for that organization. So these days when people are like, oh, do you want to donate to our charity? I feel like I've done that.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah, I
like I've
hear you.
donated enough. But I think after a while, it's just you have to charge a listing fee, or maybe you just buy their stuff outright because
Mm,
it takes time, and then there's that whole return policy. You have to wait to give them their money until the return policy is
mhm.
expired. And um, they always, if it's individuals, I don't say always, but they usually think their item is worth so much more than you can get for it on eBay.
Yeah.
And then you
Mhm.
have to have that discussion and convince them. And it gets kind of exhausting after a while. But
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
sellers should go through that to learn what it's all about. It can be lucrative if you set your boundaries. But
Mhm.
like once things start selling, they want you to do more and more, and then it takes you away from your own work. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on consignment. Um, it's just you have to set the ground rules up front and make sure you
Mhm.
have boundaries and that you keep them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just think it's important for people to know what they're getting into, that the administrative overhead, the record keeping, it's easily double. Um, when I was doing it, I didn't do it for long, and I did it very opportunistically. I
Mhm.
didn't go out looking for it. People knew that I was selling online and they would just ask me if I would do it. So I would, take it one by one. I did a collection of baseball gloves, which actually wasn't that hard. It was a woman who she had gotten a divorce and her husband was a collector of baseball gloves, and um she just wanted them gone. She didn't care. Just so I just brought them all to my house, and she didn't care anything about what they sold for and what didn't sell. She didn't want back. Just donate it, keep it, do whatever you want with it. So that was pretty easy. But again, that was another big learning experience, and you do learn about people who collect. Um, Which is interesting because one of the things I like about selling things that are collectible, like vintage, like the baseball mitts and vintage fly rods, because the people who are looking for them, whether they're reselling them or they're actually use them, they really care about these things. They know them very well. Um, they know what they are, what they're not, what they're worth. And so from the buyer, I learn a ton from them. Um, and I like selling something to somebody who really appreciates what it is, even though I might not have the same outlook because I, barely know what it is. But they do and they care about it. So it makes it worthwhile when you feel like you're really giving something to somebody that is important to them for whatever reason. So I do enjoy trying to find things like that, but um yeah, it just sort of happens. It doesn't I wish I could find more bamboo fly rods that are antique, vintage. This is not fly fishing country. That's Western. So
Oh,
I don't find
okay.
that here.
Okay.
But
Well, and I
yes,
think
those
you're
are
right.
those are fun to sell.
It's that whole rehoming items to people that appreciate them,
Mm-hmm.
know their value. Those are
Mm-hmm.
our ideal buyers. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. My son, he was a big reader and he loved Calvin and Hobbes. He loved a lot of things, but when he was younger, Calvin and Hobbes, and he took very good care of his books. And so last winter, maybe spring, I finally got around to deciding it was probably time to move some of his books. And I sold them to a mom who had a son who was about the same age as mine when he started, and just a really, really, really good price. And she sent me a couple of thank you notes because her son didn't know he was going to get them, and she was just really excited about it. So that was fun. It wasn't much money at all. I mean, a couple of bucks really, but the fact that she was going to give them to her son, and he was beyond, overjoyed. That was If you hear a cricket, because there's one in my house.
well, crickets are good luck, so that's a good thing. I
He'll
don't
find his
hear
way out soon.
it. Okay. Yeah, and so that's the perfect ending for your son's books is
Yeah,
putting them in the hands of someone that will love them and appreciate them, because after a
yeah,
while, and the time frame is different for everybody, but after a while, after you lose somebody, you hang on to all their stuff. You just That's part of them, and you don't have anything else physical to hang on to. And then you may get to the point where it's like it's okay to let them go to someone that will love and appreciate them. And then sometimes you never want to let them go. So, um, I can see both sides of that, but I've never been somebody to, hang on to things for a long time, because that bugs me. It nags at me like, like my kids' bikes when they would outgrow their bicycles, and we would take them down to this Baptist children's home and
Mm-hmm.
donate them there so they could be used and bring joy to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my ex mother-in-law that she saved everything, every
Oh
kindergarten
no. Oh my
drawing,
gosh.
every macaroni glued to a paper plate that her kids made.
Mm-hmm.
My poor kids are probably going to have to deal with that one day. My daughter's like, we're just going to light a match to Nana's house and say goodbye to everything when she's
Oh.
because she just won't let go of anything. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody's different about that. But
Yeah.
I'm more like, these bikes are sitting here in the garage. Some kid could be riding them and make them happy. And it's just a thing. It's just a bike. And I have pictures of my kids
Mm-hmm.
riding them. So, you can still remember, but everybody's different about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I commend you for, being able to let go of some things because that is hard.
Yeah, well, right. Somebody else can enjoy it. And so when it's time, it's a timing thing, when it's time, if you're not ready. Um, one one of the things I did in my life, I was a professional organizer.
Oh,
So
that comes
I
in
used to
handy. Yeah.
actually did that for a while. And that's one of the regrets that I have, that I didn't keep that going. But anyway, we moved way up into the mountains, and my perspective was the people who would want that help was just too far away, and wouldn't be worth the time to, I was trying to homeschool and do a lot of things, and I would have to drive probably a minimum of an hour each way. And I thought, I can't do that in homeschool. So anyway, but I used to coach folks on that letting go process. And um, somehow or another, the Lord had me specializing in people who struggled with like ADD and some bipolar and
Like they
things like
can't make
that. Some
decisions. I think that's the
can't
problem.
make
It's not that
decisions,
they
right?
want all this stuff. It's they're torn between the decision making. And I think professional
Mm,
organizers are a great networking, networking person for eBay sellers. It's like, okay, when
mhm,
you get rid of stuff, let me know and you can make an
mhm.
offer or whatever.
Well, the emotional aspect, that I would never insist that anybody get rid of something that they're really not ready to get rid of.
Right.
Because, some of them, they really do have an intense emotional connection to material things. And it's more destructive to them, you know, to force that, it can, some of these folks, it would just can send them into a spiral. And
Oh,
so
I totally
progress made,
understand that. Yeah.
yeah, could be, progress made can be undone in a heartbeat. So I was really sensitive to that, and I would coach them through how to revisit it and then find out, is it time to move that thing on or not? So, but that's exhausting.
It is. It is.
It's exhausting.
If you watch the show Hoarders, you see the people trying to make these decisions. And side note, I have things that I will never sell. I don't get rid of everything. I've got something
Mhm.
that belonged to a great aunt that was born in like the late 1890s. And
Mm.
it's a little tiny silver tea set. And I'll never sell it. And
Mhm.
my grandmother's Seth Thomas clock she got as a wedding gift in the 1930s. I've
Wow.
got things like that are really old, and it's like that's
Yeah.
the only connection I have to those people. And
Mhm.
I knew them in life, but it's like, I'm not going to let that go. So, it's not everything, but you do think
Mhm.
about the practicality of items that are just sitting there not being used. Like, could somebody else love this?
Mhm. I struggle with that with my mother's things because she was a painter. She actually was a pretty successful painter up in Northern California, Mendocino County, and she did oil paintings. And little did I know, did not know how much she had in her house. So I pulled out of her home 78 paintings,
Wow.
some complete, some not. she had walls in a couple of galleries, and then she had a lot of things that she was working on. Anyway, I found homes for almost all of them. I still have, one way or another, I started with family, and then she had very good friends that really liked her work, and there were things that she had that folks had been admiring for a long time, and so they would ask me about this one or that one, and I would gift them accordingly. Just like, you love this, you should have this. The trouble is, my mom and I have very different tastes artistically, and
Right.
so I still have all these paintings, but I don't want them on my walls. So they just don't go. The color, the style is just very different from what I'm drawn to.
Hmm.
So I am under this constant conflict of, what do I do with these paintings? And I did have a couple on online. Um, one that I know she won an award for, even though her name isn't, she's not known outside of where she was, as far as I know. Um, but I got the scammers right away.
Hmm.
So I just thought, okay, I need to find another way to try to move her art, because I don't want to continue attracting these people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you
That's
have any tips on selling paintings, let me know.
I don't, but maybe some of the listeners can help you out with that, because that's something I want to get into is art. I just have to get over this hesitation to ship large items. I've shipped all kinds of things. I don't know why
Yeah.
it's such a block for me, but I did find a Robert Sexton drawing
Hmm.
over the weekend. Do you know him?
The name sounds familiar,
It's
but
the stippled art where it's just all dots, and it's these
oh, okay.
beautiful drawings of, it's about love, and it's like there's two hands holding, or an old couple sitting on their front porch in rocking chairs.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're very moving.
Hmm.
The the words go with the picture, and anyway, like I know that, so I did see that, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get that. But there's so much out there, and people find signed and numbered things all the time, and so that's something I'm interested in getting into more of, and just get a bunch of pool noodles and bubble wrap and do it.
Yeah, I've looked into the packaging and shipping of her art. She made her own frames, and they're
Mm.
wooden, and they're heavy, honestly. So and her paintings are large format, like 40 by 24. I
Oh,
mean, they're
big.
big.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just have to find the right marketplace for them. Folks have told me to, take them to galleries and whatnot, but I don't know. I haven't obviously done that. I carted them all the way out here from California.
I wonder if you could just do that with photos online. I've got this. Would y'all be interested in it? So you don't have to lug them around everywhere.
Yeah, I might try that. There's not really, I haven't locally, I haven't seen, um, there's one art gallery. No, there are two art galleries that I know of, but I don't know that she had her very own flair, creative. Um, it was Western, Southwestern, a lot of farm animals she did. And so I don't see that, even though you would think it would fit in here. Um, I don't know. I haven't done it yet, so maybe that's my next big challenge.
Okay, well, what are some things
With the
that you
capital
have
C.
sold that might be of interest to the listeners?
Well, I do, like I said, I do sell books. I like books because they're easy to store, they're easy to ship, and I'm a reader. I love to read. But I do, if I'm outsourcing for books, I'm looking for hardbound, vintage, usually nonfiction, older older than 1950, unless it's exceptional and had a real, newer than that and in demand for some reason or other. Um, but spiritual books and faith out
Mhm.
here, a lot of older Catholic books are desirable. Bibles, old Bibles. Um, my new favorite thing, which was a garage sale find not long ago, about maybe 6 weeks, was Harley Davidson service repair manuals from the older models, the 70s
Mhm.
and the 80s. And I was at a garage sale, and I heard the beauty of podcasts, right? We listen to you and people like you because we learn things. And so I had heard about service manuals on somewhere. And so there I was walking around this barn. We're in agriculture, we're farmland. Um, and I saw these two Harley Davidson service manuals, and one was in really poor condition. It had been used a lot, and the other wasn't in very bad condition. They were different, and they were asking $4 a piece. And I kind of, I wandered by them, and I'm like, it seems like I heard something about service manuals, and walked around a little bit more and kind of got off into a corner where I could look things up on my phone, which
Mhm.
still makes me really uncomfortable. So I haven't figured out how to do that really graciously. Um, so so I looked them up, and they looked like they could go for as much as $150 a piece,
Mhm.
even being in the condition that they were in, because they don't make them anymore.
Mhm.
So I offered her, I really wanted to pay $2 a piece. But I asked her if she would take $6 for the two instead
Uh-huh.
of 8. And she's like, oh yeah, I just,
Just
just
get them
take them.
out
I
of
just
here.
want them gone.
Mhm.
So I got home and got them online. One sold the next day, um, for $73. And the other one sold, it took about a week, and that sold for 40, I want to say 43. So not bad for $3 a piece.
Mhm.
Um,
That's a nice return.
I mentioned the fly rods, fishing gear. Um, I had what would you call it? It's a training toy for bird dogs. We had
Mhm.
Labradors, and this is Labrador country. It was it was a little goose. When you teach your dog that retrieves birds, you want them to have a soft mouth so they're not, eating the bird. They're just carrying
Right.
it very gently. So this was one
Okay.
of those toys. And we had it for some reason. I don't remember if it was for the kids or for the dog. Anyway, so I listed this little goose. Not for much, $9 or $10, I think, and it was gone, and it was less than 20 minutes. That surprised me a lot. Um, the fly rods, another thing about the fly rods, not to get repetitive, but those are auction items. And so, um, I know within inside of 10 days, these are going to sell. And so those are the only things that I've had in the last couple years that I've been able to auction successfully. And they go for a few $100s a piece.
Mhm.
So, and lots of interaction. And so that's fun. Um, I had some bike parts. My son had a mountain bike that was older, wasn't in good condition. We decided to part it out. And so I sold it in parts. And those, I auctioned all the parts one at a time. Um, and that went well. Actually got a lot more for that than I would have ever guessed. I helped him sell a collectible Toyota Land Cruiser.
Really?
Yeah, that was his big win. Actually, he picked up this Land Cruiser literally out of a garage. It was a hoarder, somebody that we knew. He was a hoarder, and he had this 73 Toyota Land Cruiser didn't work, been neglected for decades in the
Mhm.
garage. He and my husband and my son towed it home. He bought it for about $3,000, 3,200 or something like that.
Okay.
Got it home, did some things to it. I helped him write the ad. We sold it on Facebook Marketplace for over $9,000. But that was his
Wow.
win. Yeah, that was really, yeah.
You
I
had
thought
some
maybe he was gonna
huge, yeah, huge sales.
I thought he was gonna maybe join me in the reselling world, but um, we've had some big sales. We've sold vehicles and trailers. Horse trailer, it was a 4-horse trailer. My husband just reminded me this actually, was it 2 days ago? Um, had to do with our move. We had horses where we were, and we had this horse trailer. We had 2 horses and a horse trailer that held 4. I just I hated that trailer. It was huge, but it did haul things. So when I put it online, I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and I had so many requests that I had to turn off notifications. It was
Mhm.
just went nuts, and a lot of them were coming from south of the border. So uh, that wasn't.
Yeah, like, are
I
they gonna
couldn't see
put
how that would
people in
work out.
there? And yeah, are they gonna bring people across the border in that trailer? Like, what are they gonna
I
bring
don't
with them?
know. I had to turn off notifications and maybe block a few people. We did end up somebody local to us got it, and um again, it ties in with the fire. People need a way to get their horses evacuate. A lot of people have
Yes.
horses and they don't have trailers, or they don't
Right.
have they have the trailer. They might have 2 or more horses, but they have a trailer that will haul one. And so when you have a 4-horse trailer, you can get your horses in there, you can get the feed in there, you can get all their gear in there. And there was had a sleepover compartment, so you can get yourself in there and have a place
Okay.
to live if
Excellent.
you have to
I never would
evacuate.
have
But
thought of that. That is a
I
good
know.
point.
So we've sold a lot of big things like that, but they're not eBay. They're not eBay things.
Right. Well, do you want to talk about how things have changed as far as finding inventory now that you're living in a different location?
Yeah, it's harder. I do go to the local thrift stores. There's one I like. I have a 2 that I go to for books, and one always has a free box under their counter. And I found some gems in there. And yeah, that and garage sales. Went to a you'll appreciate this story, because I hear you talking about garage sales and thrift stores and how much things have changed and the prices, right? They're like retail. So I went to a garage sale last Thursday, I think it was, and was the first day of the sale. And I had seen it on Facebook Marketplace, and I had a good idea of what they were selling. It was a lot of tools and some other things. And so when I was walking up the driveway, right away I saw a Dyson vacuum, a Dyson
Mhm.
ball vacuum, and everything was priced at this garage sale. So it was $20. And so first I asked, does it work? And they go, yeah. So they plugged it in and showed me, they started vacuuming in the garage, showed me that it works. And I'm thinking about it. Um, I didn't want to pull my phone out in front of them and see, are people buying these and how much are they selling for? And do I just want it for myself?
Hey, that's a nice vacuum.
Oh, yeah. So I used it. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it, but so then I saw there's a couple of other things, like $3.50 worth of other small things, and I walked back to pay. I decided to get the vacuum. There were other people looking at the vacuum too, so and I said, "Will you take $20 for everything?" The total would have been $23.50. So she said, "No."
No,
And
over
I go,
$3.50 difference.
$3. And I said, you won't you won't take $20 for all of this. And she said, no. And then she gave me her story. The vacuum wasn't even hers. It belonged to her mom. And the other things probably weren't really worth $3.50. So I just, I said, I'll just get the vacuum. But the pricing, um, the pricing in the stores and the pricing at the garage sales, and I know you've noticed this where you are, it's comparable to what you would sell it on eBay. So, it is getting harder. I'm starting to look for estate sales more. Unfortunately, that means driving 100 miles to Sioux Falls. They don't seem there's always not always, but there's almost a weekly or biweekly estate sale in Sioux Falls. It's a much, that's the biggest city in the state. They're not up here, so um I'm thinking I need to learn online arbitrage. I haven't really ever done that. I haven't done retail arbitrage or online arbitrage intentionally.
Mhm.
So, because when winter comes along, winter is a real thing here in Northeast South Dakota.
Yes, I was going to say that. And maybe you need to get some car magnets like I have, with we buy all kinds of things, and I have a few categories listed, and I'm getting calls like crazy.
Oh, you
I'm
are?
having to, I have a longer list of things because, you can only fit so much on a car magnet and a business card, but I'm having to update it every day with
Oh my.
what we
So
don't buy.
people are calling you and you're
Yeah,
getting
and I actually posted it on a buy sell Facebook group. It was allowed with
Mhm.
100,000 people in Greenville, and I'm
Wow.
just getting slammed. And it's kissing a lot of frogs because like one guy, he's sent me all these pictures of, I mean, raunchy pictures of
Oh no.
pornographic magazines, and he's
Oh
like, "These
no.
are collectible," and I'm like, "I'm not selling that. I don't care. I'm just not doing that. Um,
Mhm.
I don't want to. I don't want to dive into that world and get all kinds of crazy people. But that's just not my thing. So every day I'm like updating it, and this lady's like, "I have a grandfather clock," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Mm.
There's no way
So
I
do
can."
you do buy it from them?
Yes,
You're
I
not
do.
consigning. Okay.
And I got a great hit the other day. This lady's mother-in-law passed away, and she was a craft hoarder. So she started sending me pictures, and I'm like, I can come to your house and we can do a bulk deal. And I
Mhm.
bring somebody with me. But that's kind of working. Um, I'm getting a lot of response because items are going to be better if they're been in somebody's home, and you don't have to wait for a garage sale or an estate
Mhm.
sale, but you just have to come up with a list of what you want, what you like to work with. And
Mhm.
like one guy's like, "Oh, I've got this guitar collection." I was like, "No, I don't. That's too big. I don't know anything about guitars, And
Mhm.
somebody's like, "Oh, I've got this, 20 by 25 Oriental rug." It's like, "No, that's too big."
Oh, shipping. Oh gosh.
Yeah, but so I have my specific list of what I'm looking for. And so
Mhm.
when they contact me, I can say I have a longer list so that we both don't waste our time with sending all these pictures. And so I keep updating the list with what I do want, what I don't want. And it just takes a while to get to the right people. Um, one
Mhm.
girl one girl sent me a picture of this room that looked like a bomb went off. It just had clothes all over the floor and boxes and craft supplies. Like I couldn't even tell what anything was.
Oh
And I
gosh.
just replied with, "Thank you for sending the photos. Unfortunately, we don't see anything that will work for us." Because I couldn't tell
Mhm.
what anything was. So,
Oh yeah.
you may
Right. It
want
was
to.
like being a professional organizer. Some people mistake that for being a maid. And so
Oh,
I had to,
right.
be very, very clear about, what I do, what I
But
don't
like if
do.
you did that with business cards or another, ads on Facebook groups or whatever, then word gets around that you buy stuff. So
Mhm.
I've seen many other sellers be successful with this idea, and I
Mhm.
just kind of made it into my own with the car magnet thing.
Mhm.
But it is working.
I'll think about that. That's not a bad idea. I do have to. I'm starting to think about, the season. The changes sooner here than in other places. I'm starting to sell winter boots. Well, I haven't sold them. I picked up at a church rummage is the word here. I don't know if it's that.
Yeah, we use that word. Church
Okay, so
sale.
I went to one over the weekend, and it was a blast from the past where they're only asking 50 cents for that and a dollar for that. And so I picked up 3 pairs of insulated men's winter boots for a dollar a piece. And, that's more my speed when they want $75 a piece, like they did at a garage sale, was a pair of Harley boots, and they were in good shape, but they wanted $75 for these boots. And I'm like, wow, those are nice boots. I hope somebody buys them from you.
Yeah, but you have to find the people that are willing to let things go, and it's more about cleaning out, downsizing, or they've had a death and all this was dumped on them, or they have a storage unit, or um, so you can still make them a good deal, but you have to find the people that aren't all about the price of every single item. And I've heard
Yeah, no
Kelly.
negotiating. I'm running into that on eBay. I'm trying to help my husband buy um, a bow that my guys, they hunt archery. Season starts in a week. And he got an offer. I sent in you get 5 offers. So I sent in one, it was auto decline. I sent in a second, it was auto decline.
Mhm.
And so then we just let it go. And then last night, like, woke me up. Um, I had an alert from eBay that the seller was offering a 3% discount. I was like, 3% with no
Woo.
counter. He didn't have counter offers set or anything. And I kind of felt like you woke me up for that, but because when I go deep when I make send out offers, 15 to 20%.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a big believer in some money is better than no money. I like to move product out. I don't hold on to things just to get a little more money. That's just me. That's my personal philosophy, but I'm happy to just move it out as long as so much of what I get is either free or, next to free. So, but I'm
Yeah.
finding people are not wanting to negotiate as much, and that's kind of disheartening.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, doing this we buy stuff business model, and I'll send an offer to somebody, and they're like, no, I need to get this. And it's like, okay, well, then that's just not my customer. You just move on
Right,
to the
right,
next one. Don't take it
right,
personally. It's like, I know what I'm going to pay because I've got to be able to resell it. So,
right,
who else does this kind of business? I think that's why I'm getting such a great response, because who else is just going to pay you for your stuff without you having
right.
to have a garage sale, or a lot of people don't do Facebook Marketplace. They just don't want to deal
Mhm,
with the hassle of it. Um, so it's just, and I've heard George Kelly talk about this. You find people that you can have a relationship with for years because
mhm,
they have a shopping problem. They're always buying more stuff. They accumulate, and it just takes a long time. And I'm not going to
mhm,
walk in there and pay somebody $4,000 for things. I'm going to do it in small
mhm,
increments that are manageable, and that kind of thing. So
mhm. So
anyway,
have you ever approached your business model at a thrift store? Have you ever told them you resell, and if they want, have you ever tried that?
like buying stuff from a thrift store in
Well,
bulk.
no, telling them that if they need help selling, that you could help them sell. I mean, I don't know, am I making sense? helping them move out their inventory?
No, I just kind of want to do it on my own.
Uh, yeah, no,
Because
I get that. I'm just
I mean,
wondering. I'm wondering if they would even want to.
I have offered when I see a whole bunch of stuff in the back they haven't put out yet. I have offered them like, hey, would you take $100 for me to go back there and go through that and then buy things, like a special ticket in. And I haven't had any takers yet. I think it has to be a small independently run thrift store for them to want to do that. But you can see the backlog in everywhere you go in
Yeah,
that back room, or watch the donations pour in and that kind of thing. And
right.
um, so that's really the only offer I've made to thrift stores to get stuff in a special way. So yeah,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
any
I haven't tried it. I was just wondering if my gut tells me they would reject it. So I
yeah,
haven't tried it, but
I think you have to have a special relationship with the decision maker, and it has to work for them. So um I don't know, I'll keep trying. I can hear no 1,000 times to get to the yes. I'm okay with that. That's life. So anyway, but we've been going for about an hour now. So you chose the final question to talk about your favorite podcasts or podcasts you would recommend.
yeah, um I listen to a lot of podcasts, but one that I s- have been listening to for many years, but I just picked it up again recently, is by a guy. His name is Todd Henry. His podcast is called The Accidental Creative, and it's about all things creative. He talks to creators of all sorts. And the reason I started tuning in again is because I was listening to a reseller talk about how reselling is a craft and an art, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And so I do look at it as constantly honing a craft, reselling, because it takes in so many different um, aspects: a creative description, good photography, good research, good relationships, good marketing, the right venue, it goes on and on and on. And so I really appreciated that. And so Todd Henry talks about creating, uh, just in general, the 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 thought process, the struggle. And so I do get a lot out of that, because it's not specific to writing or photography or paint. It's not um, a specific type of creativity. It's just in general the creative thinking mind. So
Okay,
the
that's a
accidental
great one.
creative.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't heard of that. And you're right. And he's right that I think reselling, it's a skill. There's creativity, there's craft, and there's skill, because it's not for everybody. And a
Right.
lot of people are just completely not attracted to it at all. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait for something to sell. It might take 2 years. But you have items that sell at all different velocity, I guess. Could sell in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
sell in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I guess I feel like it might be kind of like gambling, where it's just
A little bit.
you,
Yeah, a little
you're,
bit.
you're making an informed decision, which is really not like gambling, but you don't know what the outcome's going to be
Mm-hmm.
or when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're having a day where everything, or a week where everything's just dragging, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a sale for something at full price. It's that intermittent reinforcement that keeps us going, and it keeps it exciting,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that unknown outcome. And a lot of people are not okay with that. They want to go to
Mm-hmm.
their job, make their salary or their hourly wage, and know they're going to get a paycheck. And but of course, that's not guaranteed either, with downsizing and companies going out of business. Nothing's
Mm-hmm.
really guaranteed these days at all.
Oh
So
yeah.
you put your
Yeah.
your faith and your trust in yourself and the system. And the longer
Mm-hmm.
you do it, the more trust you have and the more patience you develop, because it does take a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I
it's definitely a
agree. I
skill
agree with
and
that.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you again for agreeing to come on. And I learned a lot from you. So I really appreciate
I
you
hope
sharing.
so.
What are you up to this afternoon?
Cleaning up the snow boots and hopefully getting them online.
Yeah, it's going to be snowing there in like a week, right?
No, I don't know. It's today is going to be a cooker, actually. It's going to be a very hot week. We're under heat advisory, but the snow can start flying in October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can, but November for sure. Um, so I'm gonna start moving towards coats, jackets, boots, and those are the only kinds of clothing that I like to sell.
Mm-hmm.
But I might revisit because the thrift stores around here are jam-packed with clothing. So I might have to get over my dislike of selling clothing.
Hey, you might want to
And
look at bathing suits. I know that sounds weird, but with all these indoor aqua fitness classes and people going on vacations, and I sell them all year, and they're small, don't take up much room.
I thought of you last week when I was in a thrift store that's actually going to close in October. Everything's half off until they close. And they had a large rack of next to new swimsuits. And I thought Suzanne would be buying these.
I know,
But
I just can't resist because it just works. So
yeah, that's crazy. I can't. I'll have to wrap my brain around that and give it a
yeah,
try.
I know when it's 5 degrees and snowing, you're like, who's going to buy a bathing suit? But I
Well,
sell.
snowbirds, they go to Costa Rica, they go to Cabo San Lucas, they go to Florida. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
know it's counterintuitive with seasonal things, but if you look at completed listings, sold listings, you'll see that
How
these
many
things
brands you
sell.
like?
Yeah. Okay. LL Bean and Land's End and Miracle Suit and um, Longitude and Maxine of Hollywood and the rare
Wow.
St. John. I have found not St. John's Bay, but St. John. Those are
Okay.
different brands.
Okay.
And any of Speedo, the competition triathlete kind, TYR,
Mm-hmm.
all of those. I actually live next door to a health club, and that was by design, that has an indoor pool. And
There is a big fitness center not far from here, so.
but the triathletes train indoors, they'll go in there and swim for 2 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
it just depends, you may live somewhere, in Minnesota, but you travel to a triathlon in Florida. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's my
Okay.
brain dump on
Well,
swimwear.
maybe I'll go revisit that clothing rack in that
Yeah,
store.
if they're cheap enough. I mean, if you can get them for $3 or $4 and sell them for 25 and up, it's
Yeah,
worth it.
I didn't look at the prices, but I might. I have to broaden my horizons and see what sells. So
Buy low, sell
anyway,
high. There you go.
exactly.
Okay, it was great to meet you in person, and we will look for your
Okay.
sales on the Facebook group.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was quite informative. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Sally. And now it's time for today's trivia question. We mentioned intermittent reinforcement. And I thought, well, maybe people don't know what that is. So that's the question. What is intermittent reinforcement and how does that relate to eBay? Here's a few seconds to think about it. Intermittent reinforcement is a term coined by psychologist B.F. Skinner, who studied behavior and refers to rewards that you receive inconsistently or unpredictably. So you're uncertain whether the end result will be positive or not. You're more likely to repeat the previously rewarded behavior. And that comes from his famous Skinner box experiment. A Skinner box is a term for a box where animal experiments are conducted. In the box, the animal is isolated and only surrounded by levers or other apparatuses. When the animal presses the lever or performs a certain behavior, it may be rewarded or punished. These experiments helped B.F. Skinner develop his ideas of operant conditioning and schedules of reinforcement. So yeah, that was way scientific. So let me give it to you Suzanne style. So for contrast, continuous reinforcement means you are rewarded every time a specific action is made. And I'm going to refer to my beautiful yellow lab friend, Georgia. Every time she goes outside to do her business and comes back in, she gets a treat every single time. Intermittent reinforcement means the reward is unpredictable, but it eventually comes. The best example of intermittent reinforcement is the slot machine. People keep playing. They keep putting money in and waiting for the payout, which is completely random. Scientists have discovered the higher the level of unpredictability of a reward, the more dopamine will come pouring into the brain. And dopamine is a feel-good hormone, which is the root of addiction to anything. So eBay is that way. You keep working on it, knowing the reward, which is a sale, will come. But it's so addicting because the reward is random. And when the reward comes, that creates excitement and good feelings. So that's your psychology lesson for the week. All right, another informative episode in the books. Next week, my guest is Sam, who is new to the scene and is having wild success. Whether you are a seasoned seller or a newbie, you'll learn some new things. Thanks for joining us for the last hour. And remember, keep moving forward, stay positive, and I will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.